Roy sent back the song, and I heard it for the first time. I was like, oh my goodness, like, whoa, I did that. Like, I first saw it perform during the Summer 16 tour last year. So Roy was opening for Drizzy, and so that was one of the joints he performed. At that time, it was just a mind blowing to see that joint performed in the Air Canada Center, right? But at the Danforth, it was more special because like they were there for him. The place like erupted like when the shit dropped. So. I'm going through soccer from the time he said, put me on the back, started to you, take me back. I get like goosebumps every time I see that. The process to make Down Girl was, I think, early 2015 when I made that, my first attempt, or one of my first attempts at doing that kind of thing. So it was just really a lot of like experimenting, really a lot of like not really knowing what I was doing. I have to like intentionally get it in my head, like, all right, we're gonna try some shit today. We're gonna like make some stuff with a bit more energy. Especially back then, I was pretty unsure of myself. But luckily for me, Roy is like super open to anything. Actually, the funny thing is, Sonny Diamonds like took my original beat and like cut it up and like rearranged it to better fit, a singer. Big up to Sonny for that. And then Roy, he'll be, same thing. Nah, I'm not really rocking with that. Nah, take that out. Yo, try this, try that. Like, so it's very much a collaborative effort. So that's why it's dope working with them. I started out with this synth, this VST called Cyclop. I just played a simple pattern, right? Like, I was just like, dun, dun, dun. So I had that in my head. Right. The interesting thing is, and this sound, what I did, put a gross beat on it. Ended up using this one of the presets called the drum loop preset. So that's why it gives it kind of that weird like moving sensation, like when you're listening to it. I took off quite a bit of the high end, took off some of the low end. Right? And I paired it with a Moog. You guys obviously know me for my Moogs and Omnisphere. Once again, signed Moog bass. Again, like I said in the last video, I use it all the time. Right? After that, it was a matter of me playing chords. So I opened up another Omnisphere. For me, the key to the whole beat was the initial sound, right? That initial sound kind of set the tone for everything else. And that's it gave it a bit of a bounce in the actual melody. Producers, I feel like that's a really big thing, like, creating a balance within the melody. This is actually something that, like, Solomon and Luca, the two guys that produce for Anders, man, this is what those two guys talk about a lot. Like, right now, if I have this sound, right, if I take all these effects out, but that was like the lead sound. Now when I put that gross beat back on, see what I'm saying? And again, it was just a preset that I use in gross beat. And then I cut some of the low end off. And so you bring the chords back in. Bring the Moog back in. You got a dope bass line going, right? So then I just started out with a simple, I added, snaps. So I actually layered the snaps. I think I duplicated the original snap. Added a touch of reverb. My reverbs aren't crazy. I just use warm verb and fruity convolver. Like fruity convolvers. After that, it was came in with a nice light kick. One kick that was had a bit more of a high end to it. That I added some reverb. And the second kick was dominated more of the low end, right? I opened another Omnisphere, and then I opened up another piano VST. Piano preset. This is called Snow Chant Piano, but I turned on the arpeggiator. I really just copied the chord progression that I made originally in this section. Copied it in the second Omnisphere. Now, oftentimes, like, what's really dope about Omnisphere is that there's several options. Like, it's not just like a one button where you press to turn on to arpeggiated sound or whatnot. There's like so many different presets within the arpeggiator. That's another bit of advice I'd give to producers, like, you know, when you're really trying to create a bounce, once again, creating a bounce within the melodies, that's a great way to go about doing it, to really get your ideas out and make them unique. So after that, this is where like the 808 comes in. Right, now with the 808, I didn't want the trill, so all I did was, so in this section, I'm sure a lot of you guys know about this, but you know, in FL11, you know, you go to the instrument properties. What I did was I just cut the trail on it, right? So I can always play it like a piano. I can play it like without having like, you know, that endless trail that you often hear whenever you hear 808s. I wanted to create more of a stabbing type of feel when I was playing when the 808s were coming in, and I also wanted to make sure that there was still a lot of presence. Cut out the highs on the 808, and then they can both exist in perfect harmony, right? So there's no clashing going on. And then afterwards, I brought in this these hi-hats. There's a hi-hat loop that I brought in. I don't think I did anything crazy in that regard. I had a gross beat, half-timed it very slightly. So that has a bounce even without the drums, right? Bring the drums back in. It was at this point I added another move. It kind of brings everything together. After I added that, I ran it back from the top. And I was like, okay, I tried to kind of sneak the 808 underneath there again, but it was just too much going on. I was like, let me take the 808 out, and I was like, okay. Creating a bounce within your first melody can literally just make or break the beat, for real. I find a lot of times if you don't do this, then you're gonna end up trying to overcompensate with your drums. You're trying to create some sort of crazy patterns with your drums, where it's just like, nah, like go back to the heart of the beat. If your melody don't have no bounce, you ain't got nothing. Yeah, man, you guys can walk away with anything, man. Just, you know, make sure your beats make sure your melodies have a bounce, because it'll mean the difference between it being an average to good beat versus something that's like the moment you press play, you know what time it is. That's the kind of stuff I want to make now. Anyways, I go to the clubs a lot more, you know, I'm going to a lot more shows, and like, I almost look at it like scientifically, where it's just like, oh shit, like people don't respond so well to certain songs, then when other songs come on, you're seeing the reactions instant, like the body. It's interesting. So that's the kind of approach now I try and take with a lot of my joints. Anytime I feel like, all right, it's time to jump out the window and do something a bit left field, I have this as like a great reference point. I was like, hey, when you did this before, you know, it turned out great.